A few years ago, if someone told you a $300,000 house would someday feel cheap, most people would laugh. Today, in many parts of America, people see a $300,000 house and think, wow, that's actually not bad. And that says a lot about the housing market right now, because here's the strange part. Millions of people are earning more money than ever before, yet still feel completely locked out of home ownership. People with decent jobs, dual incomes, good credit, stable careers, and somehow, buying a normal house still feels painfully difficult. So what happened? Who can actually afford a $300,000 house in 2026? And why does something that once represented the middle-class dream now feel almost unreachable for so many people? The answer is more psychological than most people realize, because most people don't actually understand how expensive a house truly becomes after the sticker price. When people hear $300,000 house, their brain focuses on the number itself, but homes are not bought with total price emotionally, they're bought with monthly payments. And monthly payments changed everything. Think about this. A few years ago, low interest rates made expensive homes feel manageable. People could borrow money cheaply, so even high house prices didn't feel impossible. But when interest rates rise, the monthly payment changes dramatically. Suddenly, the exact same house becomes hundreds or even thousands of dollars more expensive every month. And psychologically, humans don't react strongly to large abstract numbers. They react to recurring pain. A one-time number feels distant. A monthly bill feels real. That's why people today don't just feel shocked by house prices. They feel crushed by the monthly cost attached to them. Now let's break this down in a simple way. Imagine two people buying the exact same $300,000 house. One buys during lower interest rates, the other buys during higher interest rates. Even though the house price is identical, their monthly payments may feel completely different financially. That's the hidden trap most people don't see. Housing affordability is not just about price anymore. It's about financing conditions. And once you add insurance, taxes, maintenance, utilities, HOA fees, and repairs, the real monthly cost becomes much larger than people expected. That's why many first-time buyers experience shock after running the numbers. The house itself may technically be affordable on paper, but emotionally, the payment feels overwhelming. And this creates something dangerous psychologically. People begin stretching themselves financially just to enter the housing market. Why? Because society treats homeownership like proof of adulthood and success. People grow up hearing things like, renting is throwing money away. You need to buy as soon as possible. A home is the American dream. So naturally, people feel pressure. Pressure from family, pressure from social media, pressure from comparison, especially when they see friends buying homes online. And social media makes this even worse, because nobody posts the stressful parts. Nobody posts the repair bills, the anxiety, the huge mortgage payments, the unexpected costs. People only post the keys, the smiling photos, the empty kitchen tours, the success moment. So everyone else watching thinks, maybe I'm falling behind. And that feeling is powerful. Humans naturally compare themselves to others, especially financially. If people around you are buying houses, your brain starts treating home ownership like a race. And races create emotional decisions. That's why some people end up buying homes they technically qualify for, but cannot comfortably afford. And those are two very different things. This is one of the biggest financial misunderstandings today. Banks calculate whether you can survive the payment, not whether you'll feel financially peaceful making it. Huge difference. Because surviving a payment is not the same as comfortably living your life. Someone can technically afford a mortgage while constantly stressed every month. And stress changes everything. It affects relationships, health, career choices, mental peace, freedom. A giant housing payment can quietly control your entire life. Think about how many decisions become harder when most of your income disappears into housing. Suddenly, changing jobs feels risky. Starting a business feels impossible. Taking time off feels dangerous. Unexpected expenses feel terrifying. And this is where the deeper issue begins. A lot of people are not buying homes for financial freedom. They're buying homes for emotional security and social validation. That doesn't mean buying a house is bad. Not at all. Homes can absolutely build long-term stability and wealth, but people rarely talk about the emotional side of the decision, because houses are not just financial purchases.
They're identity purchases. A home represents safety, success, stability, status, family, achievement. And when emotions become attached to purchases, people often ignore financial warning signs. This happens constantly. Someone says, "Well, it'll be tight financially, but we'll make it work." And sometimes they do. But what people underestimate is the long-term pressure of living with very little margin, because home ownership is not just buying the house, it's maintaining the lifestyle around the house: furniture, repairs, appliances, property taxes, insurance increases, maintenance, unexpected emergencies, and houses are surprisingly expensive to maintain emotionally and financially. A renter calls the landlord when something breaks. A homeowner becomes the landlord. That changes the game completely. Now, here's something interesting. The people most comfortable buying homes today often fall into a few categories: higher income earners, dual income households, people receiving family help, or buyers with significant savings already built up. And that last part matters a lot, because many people underestimate how much easier life becomes when you have cash reserves. A person with savings experiences financial stress very differently from someone living paycheck to paycheck. That's why wealth is not just about income. It's about margin, breathing room, flexibility. The problem is that modern culture constantly pushes people toward maximum affordability. People ask, "What's the biggest house I can buy?" instead of asking, "What house payment allows me to still feel free?" That question changes everything, because financially smart people don't just think about ownership, they think about sustainability. Can I still save money after this payment? Can I still invest? Can I handle emergencies? Can I sleep peacefully? That matters more than impressing people with square footage. And ironically, many financially stable people intentionally buy less house than they technically qualify for. Why? Because lower fixed expenses create freedom. And freedom is one of the most underrated forms of wealth. A smaller payment gives people options. Options to leave toxic jobs. Options to invest more. Options to take risks. Options to breathe. But modern society often rewards appearances over flexibility. People celebrate visible success, big kitchens, luxury interiors, huge homes, but nobody sees the stress hidden behind oversized financial commitments. And that's why some homeowners quietly feel trapped, especially younger buyers. Many people in their 20s and 30s already feel financially stretched before buying a home. Student loans, car payments, higher living costs, inflation. Then suddenly, they add a massive mortgage on top of everything else. And psychologically, that creates constant pressure. This is why some people earning six figures still feel financially anxious. Because income alone does not create comfort. Cash flow does, margin does, low financial pressure does. A person making less money with manageable expenses can sometimes feel far wealthier emotionally than someone earning more but drowning in obligations. That's the hidden truth. And there's another reason homes feel harder to afford now: lifestyle inflation. As incomes rise, expectations rise too. People no longer compare themselves to the homes their parents started with. They compare themselves to fully renovated homes online, perfect kitchens, luxury bathrooms, open layouts, modern aesthetics. Everything feels upgraded, and after consuming that constantly, basic homes start feeling not enough. This changes buying behavior dramatically. People stretch for bigger homes, nicer neighborhoods, better finishes, not necessarily because they need them, but because expectations changed. That's one of the biggest psychological shifts of modern money culture. People aren't just buying shelter anymore, they're buying a lifestyle image, and lifestyle images are expensive. Now, does this mean nobody should buy a house? Of course not. For many people, home ownership can absolutely be a great long-term decision. The real lesson is understanding the difference between emotional affordability and mathematical affordability. Just because a bank approves you doesn't mean the payment supports the life you actually want. Because at the end of the day, the goal is not simply owning a house. The goal is building a life that feels stable, flexible, and financially healthy. And sometimes that means waiting longer, saving more, buying smaller, living below your means, or ignoring social pressure completely. That's hard to do in a world constantly telling people to upgrade everything. But financially intelligent people understand something important. A home should support your life, not quietly control it. Because the real cost of a house isn't just the purchase price, it's the amount of freedom you give up to maintain it. And maybe the better question in 2026 isn't, who can afford a $300,000 house? Maybe the better question is, who can afford one comfortably without sacrificing their peace, flexibility, and future? Because those are the things that actually matter long term, not just the address.